BTRN Sports app.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore. And save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices. More than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing. And we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
Hi, Danny from Gibbons Books Little Dickens. We believe in reading and play and in shopping locally for stronger communities. 3 times more jobs are created by local businesses versus online sales. This holiday season, live local and shop local for a better Central Virginia.
Hey, this is Jake with Western Ways in Forest. Shop our thousands of pairs of boots in store with personalized customer service and excellent pricing. Shop Western Ways this holiday season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's from our family to yours.
Looking for everything happening in and around Central Virginia that used to be in the morning paper? Start your day at the LynchburgPortal.com. Get the latest news updates from Bill Trevero, plus up-to-date weather from BTRN's own in-house meteorologist, Matt Ferguson. So you're always in the know before you head out the door. Want to listen on the go? Stream classic hits on Rewind 103.9. Get breaking local news on WIQO, or catch the best sports talk and play-by-play on BTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio, all right from the portal. Looking to save? Check out insane radio deals for great local discounts, or explore local podcasts featuring the voices and stories that make our community special. Plus, connect with local businesses through the Lynchburg Business Alliance directory and stay in the loop on the latest events from Lynchburg Tourism. It's all right here. Local news, weather, sports, deals, and more at the LynchburgPortal.com, your gateway to everything Lynchburg.
Jefferson Forest Cavaliers football, presented by Trostball.com, heads back on the road for the VHSL Class 4 state semifinals this Saturday, December 6th. Your Central VA Flooring kickoff show starts at 1:30, getting you ready for JF at the Verina Blue Devils. Join us on the Virginia's Talk Station app, 100.9 FM Lynchburg, 95.5 FM Bedford, and Open Virginia Talk Radio Network on your smart speaker. JF Football is also presented by Crossroads Family Dentistry, Forest Youth Athletic Association, Meineke Car Care, and the Andy Matthews Insurance Agency.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Some people want to just go ahead and press the detonator and nuke it. We're not quite that way here in the fast lane. At least I'm not. Luke has been closer to that reality with Liberty Flames football, wanting change for the sake of change. Off with their heads. Bloodthirsty is the term I would use to describe you, Luke. Am I going a little bit overboard and excessive?
Maybe a little bit, but not that much.
Okay, so you want change? Well, you may not be getting blowing up for the sake of blowing up, as Jamie Chadwell mentioned after the loss to Kennesaw State.
You got to make sure that you're not blowing it up just to blow up. You got to think, what are the areas that we definitely need to improve? And are there things that is, hey, this works, we just have to do it better, And so I've been thinking a lot about that since we've been 1-4, to be honest. Like what do we got? What do we have to improve? Is it a complete blow up? And so I'll take some time here. Obviously, we'll have some player meetings next week. And start working through that, getting ready for the portal, and then we'll have some, coaches meetings as well, and we'll start figuring out the next steps we need to do to put a program where we want it to be.
That was Jamie Chadwell after the loss to Kennesaw State, fourth in a row, third in a row in overtime that wrapped up the Flame season at 4-8. But he doubled down today. National Signing Day press conference, a lot different vibe now, dealing with high schoolers than in prior times. But he doubled down that he'd been working on changes really throughout the season, particularly since they went 1-4.
Working on those, honestly, throughout the season. And so, but I've got to meet with coaches, see their thoughts, tell them my thoughts. And I'm sure we got some guys that might have other options as well, job-wise, and some of those things too. So all that'll be discussed next week.
Now, the obvious one is the knowledge of Willie Korn, who is stepping away from football. That came out yesterday. He will no longer be coaching at any level, much less Liberty's quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator. How they plan to fill that, maybe Chadwell takes over play calling himself. Maybe they promote internally. He teased that idea. They may look to add another voice outside of Liberty football, which, full disclosure, even if you promote internally for offensive coordinator and Jamie Chadwell has more of a say in play calling, some other voice on offense, maybe I'm off base, Luke. I think that should be the minimum benchmark, is just getting some other voices in the room when it comes to the Liberty Flames offense, given that it's Jamie Chadwell's specialty and they were 4-8, and let's just be blunt, inconsistent throughout the football season.
Yeah, you need a third opinion, as the doctor would say, but it's too inconsistent, and the record certainly shows that.
Yeah, I mean, it did. I mean, 4-8, there's no way to hide around it. You can talk about how close they were, including the 3 overtime losses, but when you continue to be inconsistent throwing the football, I get there's the injury to Ethan Vasco, but look, this is the modern era of athletics. When athletes are getting paid and they have representatives, and I'll use air quotes here, agents, some of them are legitimate agents, your CAA variety, Jimmy Sexton and Clint Dowdle, or our guys, Drew Rosenhaus and his crew. Some of them are agents, quote unquote, family and friends, and quote, advisors, end quote, who term themselves agent and take a preposterous amount well past collegiate eligibility because these kids have no clue what they're signing. Look, it does happen. But when you're dealing with that, you got to treat them like grown-ups, and availability is the greatest ability. Therefore, if you're commanding more and you're not available, injury or otherwise, you're treated different than when you're not available, and it was just on scholarship, and the patience was a little bit longer for development. It's just not there. So, changes to the staff in and of itself. You know, we brought that up offensively, but it's not the only side. Jamie Chadwell basically said there's going to be some changes additionally to Willie Korn's departing as quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator. And that seemed to really hurt, but understandably, Jamie Chadwell, he mentioned his relationship with Willie Korn. We posted the 2-part soundbite at Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as Jamie Chadwell teared up and really got emotional speaking on Willie Korn's departure earlier today. Jon Manson will weigh in on all of this, by the way, 5:45-ish last segment here in the Fast Lane. But for those wanting changes defensively, Ty Tracy from the Morning Warm-Up.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
At the Morning Warm-Up, wherever you listen to podcasts. Weekdays, 7 to 8 a.m., VTR and Sports app, and 93.3 FM. You might be in luck. You might be getting that as well.
You know what? I've not. We're all this week is we've been meeting with our own players and trying to figure out what's going on there. You know, get through sign a date. I have meetings with all of our coaches next week as far as performance review. So we'll see. There might be changes that there's going to be changes. What they exactly look like, I'm not going to tell you. Around 100%, ready to share that information. But there'll be changes in a lot of areas. I'm not just talking coaches per se. There's some things we got to do. We're not going to go through this again. All right, so we've got to make some good changes. And
so the whole off with their head idea is understandable. Again, Luke is saying he's not quite in that camp, but he has wanted desired changes. So far, are you pleased with the concept that you're hearing? There are obviously going to be offensive coaching staff changes, and Jamie Chadwell is intimating there's a good chance you'll see changes in some form responsibly on the defensive side of the football.
I mean, yes, but because if not, who does it fall back on? It's him. So he has to make changes, else he's essentially taking the blame himself. And he's like, well, there might be some change. There's going to be some changes.
It's like he didn't want to throw anyone under the bus without having the conversation, but you cannot be so naive. I would not go the Three Stooges route when it comes to this one, as far as, using the phrase that a lot of people might mistake.
Are you that dumb?
I wouldn't call it dumb for coaching staff members, because plenty of these people are smart. They're in the business. They see the business element more than ever with players getting paid. But I don't think you can be that naive as a coach and realize, hey, we just went 4-8. My job is guaranteed to be secure. Not to mention the fact that there's pressure on Jamie Chadwell, and usually before you get rid of a head coach, you give him an opportunity
to make staff changes. That's routine in football. And I don't think this automatically means Chadwell's the next to go after. I think if they have a bad year, he is. But I don't think this is just, hey, he's throwing guys off the boat because it's sinking and he's next. But he's not. Chadwell's aware of it. And therefore, if you're on his staff, you have to be aware that something's going to have to change because 4-8 with the amount of resources Liberty invests is just not going to cut it.
And he already knows, too, who he's letting go. That was just, that was for show in the press conference. He already knows who he wants to let go. But, yeah, Liberty, the resources they have, the expectation they have, 4-8 in Conference USA is just words cannot comprehend how bad that is for the expectation that has been Liberty football.
Well, your expectation is, I would imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, run Conference USA and be a contender. You're not always going to get in to the college football playoff, but at least be in the discussion annually as a college football playoff team.
In my head, we should be running Conference USA. Absolutely.
I don't think that's unreasonable to think of where Liberty's investments are. Outside, you're going to get different years. This could look different next year. Remember, JMU's going to look totally different next year. Bob Chesney's gone. I'd imagine other players are gone. If Bob Chesney doesn't bring Alonzo Barnett with him to UCLA and the other evaluations say he's not really a Power 5 quarterback, he's got to be at the top of my list if I'm a Liberty Flame. I love the way the guy carries himself. I know he's a little bit undersized, and that may be the ding at the Power 5 level. If I'm Liberty, pardon my language, who the heck cares about that? Am I off base thinking Colton Joseph's gone from ODU? He announced today he's entering the transfer portal. I think he is transferring up to a Power 4 program. I legitimately think everyone's aware of that. So that one is off the table of players Liberty faced because the size is different and measurables matter the higher you go. But for Alonzo Barnett, that type of quarterback, heck, if I'm Virginia, I'd take him if Chandler Morris does not get granted the extra of eligibility that Virginia is pushing for him. So certainly if he doesn't go there and he's just more of a group of 5 guy, to me, that's a top target. And it's not the only position Liberty has to address, but you got to view this completely differently now.
Yeah, and the problem is with Liberty, they need a draw. What is the deal for the students? Why do athletes, why do football players want to come to Liberty now? That's the question. What's going to suck them in? Before it was a success, and now that's gone out the door. Before, it was a coach you wanted to play for, and things you hear, or at least I hear from under the door about what Jamie Chadwell is. Who knows? But, how are we going to get players from the portal and from high school? Recruiting, I think, is a problem right now for Liberty.
Well, I think there's a good point to that, too. Everybody's dialing back the amount of recruits, but you got to have the right resources in place. Again, what the plan looks like, I am very curious. I'd imagine, we spoke with Jamie Chadwell today. It's National Signing Day, traditionally a time. I'd imagine the next time we'd hear from him would be sometime in the back half of January, once the transfer portal window has closed and Liberty's got a more concrete idea of their roster, because they're not doing the same deal last year where they started spring practice. Speaking of changes, I think this is one you had to make if you're Jamie Chadwell. It's a no-brainer, but they're changing the practice window to a much more traditional structure, starting practice and a more traditional spring game that's actually played during the spring.
I'm changing that. I'm pushing everything back to March. Now that we have the one portal, all the different things, I actually was doing that in the summer. I already started thinking through those things as far as some things that I wanted to change up. And so we're going to do more of a traditional now, as far as, because originally it was, you were going to be able to do things in the summer. They were changing all this stuff. So we'd already made our mind up. We're going to push it back to March and do some of that. So spring ball won't start till wherever spring break is, a couple days before spring break.
So I think that's the smart move. You kind of have to now with the way the portal window wraps up. In a perfect world, which we know the NCAA is like the opposite of that. It's like the most fractured, disjointed world when it comes to college athletics. Coaches want something that they want it changed. The whole landscape has changed forever. But you are where you are right now. Honestly, I think you should start mid-August, the regular season. Playoffs wrap up in early January. You roll into your signing day after the portal window opens up in mid to late January. Then you have your signing day. Fewer enrollees in the spring. For freshmen, look, they're not likely to play anyway. If they're all starting late, unless you're like a Jeremiah Smith, who's like a stud out of high school, most freshmen are not Jeremiah Smith. Most freshmen need seasoning time. So if they're all getting to camp for summer camp in the fall, they're probably more likely to redshirt, and it's going to take a moment, which bigger programs, again, they're going to cherry pick top talent, much like Liberty is. But you have to change that window. But listen to Jamie Chadwell. This is the obvious. But when you're 4-8 What positions would you look to upgrade in the transfer portal? Part one.
If you just go down through it, we got a D lineman. I think we got to go there. I think we got to hit secondary, corner safety. I'd like to get a couple more O linemen to help bridge the gap there as well. I think we've got to get a couple running backs. I'd like to get us one or two receivers, and I think we got to go look at 1 to 2 quarterbacks as well.
I mean, you rattled them all off, except
Kicker and a punter. So probably arguably about only one I didn't mention is probably linebacker. I think we've got a good group coming back there. Not saying that you wouldn't go try to find somebody there, but if that group, stays with us, I think we've got a really good group coming back there. Not to say you wouldn't try to supplement it by any means, but there are immediate needs in a lot of positions that can come in and have a great chance to help impact us. And so we've been on that for a while. Once the portal opens and you find out who all's actually in, we'll have a good plan to go after that.
So basically, they need to upgrade their entire roster. I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. And I get the players may not like hearing that, but I mean, let's be honest. Jamie Chadwell is basically saying everything's on the table as far as change, because if I don't make changes, my job's out the door. And again, you're paid $4 million a year to be the head coach at Liberty. It is at the high end of the spectrum when it comes to Group of 5 football, like Liberty, Memphis, South Florida. More on that in the Fast 5 at 5-ish in just a moment. But Tulane and Tulane and Boise State and UNLV. That's kind of your big 6 when it comes to revenue spenders right now in football and college athletics. So you have to make those upgrades. And so if I'm Liberty, you have to be in a position where you're committed to upgrading the entire roster. Players express disgruntlement. I don't dispute that, Luke. Coaches as well. I think everybody's generally upset, and the grumbling's just going to get louder when you start losing football games. Look, as an Eagles fan, I'll get you my own 2 cents. Yes, put one in the jar for the Eagles reference, as I confess. But they've had drama and high ego players the last couple of years. When you're dominating and winning like last year, outside of he's never happy A.J. Brown, everything kind of gets suppressed. This year, the struggle bus is loaded up and firing. And when that happens, everybody starts gawking, and it gets magnified more. So that's the reality. And college is more like pro than it's ever been, in the sense that there's going to be turnover annually, and the more success you have, you may lose guys, but if not, the more losses you have, the bigger the player defection is going to be, because coaches are also going to go on top of that. So you've got that reality. It is what it is. But I think that the basic takeaway, and I agree with this from Jamie Chadwell, everything's got to be on the table as far as upgrading the roster.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie Chadwell definitely feels that press conference goes to show you that he feels the heat because he's making changes everywhere, roster, coaches, and the spring game. Liberty was kind of known for the early spring game, and now bumping that back as well. So he definitely knows that stuff needs to change or people aren't going to be happy. And yeah, if he makes all of these changes and you get another 4 to 8 year, I think Jamie's out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Now, I think you can flip it around easier than you ever could. The rosters change. All the best schools in Conference USA that succeeded, their best players are going to get poached, and probably more likely because they're going to have even less financial resources to be able to keep them. So it's easier than ever for Liberty to just bring in the right batch of players next year and get this thing flipped and turned around. And frankly, that's where I understand why the pressure should be higher. Because while Liberty has to remake their roster, the successful teams in Conference USA probably are going to do the same thing, because they're likely to lose their best players to transfer up, and they're going to have to all of a sudden flip it once again. So it's not like Liberty's the only one in this boat of having to get a new level of chemistry going forward.
It's a minor league baseball team.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, Conference USA is a minor league baseball.
It is a developmental program. And Liberty, South Florida, Memphis, Tulane, Boise, UNLV, that group of the big spenders in college football. UNLV is the latest because, well, when you have casino money, as they say, they don't have those beautiful chandeliers for nothing. You can bankroll a program in that department. But if you're in that category, you're going to lose guys as well. Your coaches are going to be poached. Look at this past year. The 4 schools that were, by and large, in contention to make the college football playoffs. South Florida fell off over the back half of the year. But North Texas, Tulane, playing this weekend, 6:30 airtime, VTR and Sports app on Friday night. And then concurrently to that, the game will not carry JMU. They're all losing their coaches because they're all transferring up. It's just the reality of this type where you have to have that level of commitment going forward. Speaking of those coaching changes, by the way, we will get to that right now in...
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
Your non-ACC coaching nuggets of the day. South Florida lost Alex Golsh to Auburn to replace, ironically, former Liberty Flames head coach Hugh Freeze. They have replaced him with Brian Hartline, who, look, I'm glad somebody is taking a flyer on him. I get the talent at Ohio State is premium caliber talent they bring in. But is there a program in the last 10 years that has been better at developing a single position more consistently than Ohio State has been at developing wide receivers? I don't think Hartline was ever in line for a Power 4 head coaching gig. But giving him a shot at the Power 2, if you have the attention to detail that you put to developing wide receivers and the ability to bring that talent in, I would think it's worth rolling the dice for a program like South Florida. And if you saw the way his athletic director congratulated Alex Golsh on departing, and now they're behind him and they're always supporting Alex Golsh, even though he's now at Auburn, I think it's great. That would make me want to go there. So I'm not surprised that Hartline has gotten this opportunity. Ohio State's got to stink, but the reality is, when you're as good as Ohio State has been for this long, I think it's going to be a lot like the professional ranks in this sense as well. It's going to be a brain drain. The more successful you are, the more people are going to pick at you for your best coaches. I wouldn't be shocked if Ohio State lost some other coaches, D-line and O-line, because they continually recruit and develop very well. And those coaches may want to be in coordinator spots or in positions where they can try their hand at being a head coach. You can always go back to that role as Hartline. Ohio State would take him back in a heartbeat. For that, pun intended. Heartline, heartbeat, get it? But that's the direction you would go. Meanwhile, another coaching nugget in
Number 4.
Kansas State. Chris Klieman announced his retirement after 7 seasons at K-State. JMU fans, of course, are very familiar with him because he was the challenger to JMU when Klieman was at North Dakota State, and it was those two who were battling for 1AA FCS supremacy for quite a long period of time. I get it. He's a developmental type guy, and it was so successful at North Dakota State in the pre-transfer portal era. But a guy who's built his program and his reputation on being a developmental guy, we've seen some of those guys adapt very well. Some are trying to adapt. I put Jamie Chadwell in the trying to adapt category. And then there's some that just flat out have not been able to adapt, and they have tapped out and said, no mas, I'm done with this. So adios to this particular situation. I'm not surprised that we're in this point, but it's just a bigger picture lesson about how challenging it is. JMU's managed to get guys who were great developers and then move on. Bob Chesney, the recent one to UCLA when his deal is done at JMU. And before that, Kurt Signetti to Indiana. Meanwhile, speaking of coaching staff changes, but on a much more local level involving the ACC,
Number 3.
Stanford and general manager Andrew Luck. I love how it was phrased as GM Andrew Luck. They have tapped Commanders quarterback Tavita Pritchard, who was a 38-year-old quarterbacks coach with the Washington Commanders. He will now be the new head coach at Stanford. Gosh, that's a tough job. I mean, between that and Cal, which, by the way, is not going to hire Nick Rolovich. Instead, they're going to bring Tosh Lupoy in. More on that in number 2. Those have got to be the 2 toughest jobs going forward. I would be curious how much of the development of Jaden Daniels would be put on the scheme of Cliff Kingsbury, which looks like it has regressed as it typically does in year 2. How much of the development of Daniels was Pritchard and his role? I think for Stanford, it's worth bringing back a homegrown guy. They are going to have to operate in the ACC more like a mid-major program in the sense that they are going to be a developmental program who often gets their best players plucked for greener pastures financially, despite what they might say. And with what is a theme in
Number 2.
also to the ACC, loosely speaking, of course, because Cal, to me, is not really an ACC school. After getting rid of Justin Wilcox in the we all should have seen this one coming, or as Kurt from Goodburger would say,
well, I should have known.
Yes, RIP to the legend there. We should have known. Justin Wilcox and Ron Rivera seemed destined for a personality clash, despite what they even said to us at the ACC kickoff back in July. And they ended up splitting up. Wilcox, I think, made the most with the least, but I get why Cal would want some kind of fresh blood. Nick Rolovich seemed like the logical hire. He was good at Washington State and at Hawaii before that, but he didn't want to get the COVID vaccination, so he was fired at Washington State. Seems like they've kind of struggled to recover since then. Obviously, the conference realignment move certainly did not help them. But they brought in Tosh Lupoy, who's another one of those assistant coaches that has a history of success, from Saban at Alabama to Kirby Smart at Georgia to being pulled from Georgia with Dan Lanning when Lanning took over at Oregon. He's the classic, he would like to get something else going, and I admire him for taking a shot, even if it's a less than desirable job, to see what he can do as a head coach. But I'm very curious, if you gave me a faith ranking of the two additions to the ACC's West Coast schools, I'd go higher with Lupoy because he's proven he can recruit and has a background in cutthroat recruiting. Meanwhile, speaking of ACC coaching news, in
number one,
it will be, to the shock of nobody, that Dave Doran is returning to NC State next season. He announced that. NC State announced it as well. And to me, this is the one logical move that basically just flat out had to happen. He's a coach that, for NC State, I get why they would want to upgrade over him, but in what direction are you realistically going to go if you're not the big spender of somebody else? I think that's the biggest challenge for NC State. They could always try to upgrade, but they could also try and be like North Carolina and get Bill Belichick as their next head coach, who, again, shout out to our guy Michael Lombardi, the GM, but it has been less than a banner year in the first season. Oh, by the way, we might as well give you a bonus. Number one. A week or so ago, Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick's girlfriend suing Pablo Torre, the infamous reporter who has come out with multiple stories disparaging Hudson, Belichick, and the North Carolina football program. This is the classic. I would love to see this lawsuit go to court and unfold on some kind of court TV. Like the immovable force meets the indestructible object, or whatever the old phrase is that I'm clearly butchering here. If you know it, you can interrupt me, Luke. But I'd love to see it because on the one hand, you've got Jordan Hudson, and she clearly thinks very highly of Jordan Hudson. And then on the other, you have Pablo Torre, who clearly has the smartest guy in the room, I'm an Ivy League guy, let me tell you about it syndrome that has come out there. And both these people think very highly of themselves and their own intelligence. And I would just love to see them going at each other in a very catty style on closed circuit TV. I am not one generally for trashy programming, but this is the type of trashy programming that, if you're ever locked in a hotel and you're just trying to figure out what to do because it's kind of a boring hotel and you can't figure out why you're in a location, this is what you would want to see unfolding before your very eyes. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, we'll get into the weeds on the Virginia Cavaliers and what they can do, what the win against Virginia Tech does for them going forward to this weekend and beyond. The experience of that, the overall experience, and how the Wahoos navigate that. Plus, some fan feedback. We've gotten some more good feedback on Virginia football, as well as the ACC and some of our commentary on that. We'll get to all of that when we return here in the Fast Lane, VTR and Sports app, and Ask That Smart Speaker, Open VTR and Sports.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
Sushi and sake. It's a fun blend. Come experience new Yamada of Forest Sushi and Sake, the same fresh sushi you've come to expect, complemented by our new Asian fusion menu, highlighting the freshest filet mignon, plus pork belly and chicken, and grilled seafood like lobster, scallop, shrimp, tuna, and lobster with an Asian flair. Your meat is grilled and prepared to perfection every time, and our crab rangoon is the perfect start to every meal. Come experience new Yamada of Forest Sushi and Sake, 205 Bristol Mill Drive, in Forest behind the Graves Mill Center.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
All roads lead to the 2025 ACC Football Championship game this Saturday, December 6th at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Virginia takes on Duke with college football playoff implications on the line. It's a primetime showdown to crown the ACC champion. Tickets are on sale now, and a full weekend of activities at Uptown Charlotte features a free concert with Grammy Award-winning artist Rick Ross. Purchase your tickets now at theacc.com. That's theacc.com. The ACC champion will be crowned in Charlotte. Make sure you're there.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Learning. We can all learn in certain manners. And for Virginia, it took some learning to figure out what it was like to beat Virginia Tech this past Saturday night in a fairly chilly Scott Stadium. So we get to discuss that now in greater depth and what it means now and in the immediate future in the weeds.
The haters say we get into the weeds. They may even say we get into the weed.
Smoke weed every day.
Nah, we love getting into the weeds to discuss some cool sports details here in the Fast Lane.
By the way, Luke, I saw the snickering in those that were watching at VTRN Sports and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook Live and YouTube. Might have seen the snickering and might see your snarky smile when I use the end of the weed sound effect and hearing how it unfolded, which, today is your last day with us, by the way.
It just never gets old hearing the smoke weed every day. Every time I hear that.
It is, yes, I will be fully ushering for a moment and getting a confession on that when I do it for Liberty Flames Athletic, it's just a little bit more humorous because of the mission of Liberty University. I say that tongue in cheek, totally in jest, but yes, with a little bit of fun. But for Virginia, getting the victory against Virginia Tech, first of all, there is a level of satisfaction that Virginia fans should still experience and can take through the offseason of at least believing that they can do it. And it doesn't just have to be because you have one superhuman player like they did with Bryce Perkins back in 2019.
I think that what it says is man, we're headed in the right direction. We want to compete for this state, right? We want to be a worthy rival, right? We want to show up and do our part for everybody involved. Not saying that we're going to win every one of them, right? But I don't think you can win any more until you get that first one and get that monkey off your back.
Well, for Tony Elliott in particular, where initially he came to Charlottesville and downplayed the severity of the rivalry and how important it was, a lot of people felt like that was exacerbated. And again, I get it, but a lot of people don't get it. When in 2022, after the tragedy with Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Deshaun Perry, after that particular, and by the way, we've got some more from them directly, thankfully, in our fan feedback in just a moment. But, there are a lot of people that, from the outside were wondering whether Tony Elliott thought enough of the rivalry because of the departure of that game in 2022 at Virginia Tech, which I think is a little bit ridiculous, to say the least. But I think he downplayed the importance of it in 2023 in Charlottesville, which is the year where Virginia Tech blasted Virginia. We knew that Virginia Tech with Brent Pry and J.C. Price and some of the other staffers had familiarity with that rivalry, and it clearly felt like Tony Elliott had never been there before and didn't quite understand it to the point where maybe they didn't quite grasp just how embarrassing it was to have, and God bless me for forgetting the name of the kick returner for Virginia Tech, who took the kick back for a touchdown and then kept running up onto the hill, and all the Virginia fans had left, so it was all Virginia Tech fans. Like, that is a perception that stuck with Virginia, frankly, until this game, because even though they lost at Virginia Tech last year, and in full disclosure, they had not made the financial commitment to upgrading their roster in the way that you have to. Let's, again, not sugarcoat it here.
Dollar Bills,
as
y'all.
Kenny Powers can remind us. They had not done that. They did this year, and now they were equipped, and they had a wounded Virginia Tech team that, frankly, 27-7 realistically could have probably been 45-7 if they wanted to run the score up. Like it looked like the type of performance where you're going, okay, they could add a couple of touchdowns and really make this a lot uglier than it's been. But it helps now, and it does help not in the long-term future necessarily, but certainly in the immediate.
To be able to come out and to play well and to win, kind of the way the guys did, I think it makes a statement for 365 days, and that's it. We got to do it all again. So just because of what happened tonight, it don't carry over to next year. But I think it gives us confirmation, it gives us motivation, it gives us encouragement, a little bit of validation that we're definitely headed in the right direction to make this a competitive rivalry and make Virginia a program of relevance on the locally and then also nationally.
Well, I think there's part of that. I think there's also the exhaling of that because I don't think these players, a lot of them, since they are transfers, I mean, basically the entire Virginia offense and a good chunk of the defense, it's so transfer heavy. The value is none of these guys seemingly had the scar tissue because they weren't around for any of the prior losses to Virginia Tech. They were just in a spot where, hey, you've come together. Do you actually have team chemistry? It looks like they do. Do you buy in to the money that you're getting, but also actually having team chemistry? And all of that worked to their advantage. And so for Virginia, that part did work to their, again, advantage against Virginia Tech. But there's also the factor of the staff and a lot of folks around the program where they're continually carrying the vibe. And I get it. We don't have our chief vibes guy, Drew Dinsick from NBC Sports, bet the edge for this to confess with that. But the vibe for Virginia Athletics had even been to the point of that game. The line was 11 and it came down to 8, finished at 8.5. Virginia was favored by 11. They ended up being favored by 8 at the lowest, 8.5 where it closed. The vibe was all of that was driven by a lot of bad voodoo around Virginia. So if nothing else, you get to get that part out. And now it's just focusing on the task at hand. And so I believe that is a valuable thing for Virginia that they can now exhale. Now they got to reset against Duke. But it almost felt like the fans were ready to rush the field. But unlike the Florida State game, which was that close, tense, emotional battle, this one really wasn't. So you didn't necessarily feel that level of emotion. I did not sense that having the same level of emotion, except for the returning players like Noah Josie, whose comment we played earlier in the week. Whereas for the other players, it's more, hey, we checked one more off the box. It's business as usual, which going against Duke in a game you could hear this coming Saturday as part of our quadruple header of football and a little Virginia Tech basketball, I think it's a benefit for Virginia. They need to beat Duke. The ACC clearly needs them to beat Duke. Jim Phillips coming out today saying it's, quote, very clear, end quote, to him, that whoever wins that championship game between Duke and Virginia is, quote, in the college football playoff, end quote, according to Scott Fowler of the Charlotte Observer. Well, to get my office space on for a moment.
Ooh, yeah. I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
Because I don't believe that they are clearly in. If Virginia wins, they're definitely in. But if Duke wins, I mean, what happens if North Texas beats Tulane? Duke will have lost to that same Tulane team at home after taking their quarterback. So if Duke beats Virginia, no. I think JMU at that point has a very compelling case to get in. It will be a Duke team that was 7-5 in the regular season and a JMU team that was 11-1. Like, it's a 4-game, 1-loss differential. As LeBron, our friend, would like to remind us.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
Well, yeah, technically 4. 4-game, 1-loss differential for Virginia. So you've got that. But again, I think for Duke. But for Virginia, I think all of that is when you just have talented players who have a professional mindset. Sometimes that's viewed as a bad thing. I get it. But sometimes it's a good thing. And in this case, I'd say it is.
It's going to be huge. I mean, not just me. Coach Elliott, I mean, he's been a part of a ton of them. I mean, you got guys, Mitchell Melton, Jaden Thomas, and everything like that. So it's a lot of experience in championship games. And I think, too, this whole team, I mean, like I said, these past 2 weeks, 2 games have been championship games. And so you don't change anything up, stick to your routine, and just understand that we are good enough, and our best is good.
I get that they are professionals. Let's call a spade a spade. They are professionals in the sense of being compensated athletes. But a lot of these guys don't necessarily have a professional mindset in terms of a level of maturity. I'll give Tony Elliott a lot of credit. It seems like the players he's brought into Virginia, and look, this can change every year. Ask Florida State. 2023 looked great until Jordan Travis got injured. They didn't get to the bowl, and clearly everyone checked out, and nobody has mentally come back into the Seminoles program since then. It can go quickly with that. But in the here and now, it looks like that's the case for Virginia. So that's a plus. And that's where I would say, for all the fears of the ACC, I get them. It would be so ACC for Virginia to lose this game, Duke win, and the ACC gets shut out of the playoff entirely. Or better yet, they get shut out, but BYU loses, Alabama gets killed, and Miami, who doesn't win the ACC, goes to the college football playoff in a middle fingers to you, ACC, and your tiebreaker scenario. Like, that would be the ultimate. Your championship game is so meaningless. We're just going to take the school that really should have won the championship to begin with. But they had their own implosion and lost to SMU and Louisville in the middle of the season because they cannot have just one loss,
Not one,
but two losses. In Miami, appropriately, with LeBron James sound effects coming in. So that's part of it. Meanwhile, for Virginia, there's other elements to this win that do carry over that we get to in some fan feedback.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, it's time for fan feedback in the Fastlane.
So we've had a couple of good feedback pieces here. Shout out to the ladies who commented at Fastlane Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Madeline said, what a class act, Tony Elliott. The way he deflected the gloating opportunity against Virginia Tech on Saturday night and turned it into an appreciation for the players that were multi-year players at Virginia, and most importantly, the families of Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Deshaun Perry. Tracy adds on dedicating the wins to Davis, Perry, and Chandler. Excellence is your habit. Thank you, Tony Elliott, for being a standard in supporting these three families in spite of carrying on a football program. But probably the coolest one out of the bunch is Happy Perry, who, yes, happens to be Deshaun Perry's mom. Thank you to us for sharing that. No, thank you for sharing our comment, Happy Perry. We appreciate that. But most importantly, she adds, thank you to Coach Tony Elliott for continuing to remember us and support us, including being at the trial a couple of weeks ago, which, again, I don't think there's anything more that needs to be added to that, but it's worthwhile. Meanwhile, a couple of other things that are mentioned out there when it comes to things that we have discussed recently in the Fast Lane. West Coast superfan Ben chimes in. Stanford and Cal should just go back to the Pac-12. The other schools like Wake, Duke, Syracuse, Pitt, and Boston College should go to the AAC instead of the ACC. And yes, that is a knock on the Duke Blue Devils being in the ACC championship game. Hey, preach, West Coast superfan Ben. Absolutely. Cut bait with those schools, take the big money makers, and just create your own version of the ACC. The schools we want, and then the other division is the schools we're stuck with. And you can have your two divisions and make of it what you want out of that particular moment. More on Liberty Flames later. But when we return, some of that feedback that Jon Manson has gotten may be similar to what we've gotten. The desire for change. It's coming. Is he excited about it? Is he wait and see? What does Jon Manson from MissierofRide.com think about the changes that are already here and are still to come for Liberty Flames football? That when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports.
Hey folks, this is Mark Dalton with Terry Volkswagen Subaru. I would like to say thank you, but more importantly, I would like to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Hey there, Ed Lane from the Fast Lane. Weekday afternoons 5 to 6 on VTR and Sports Lynchburg 93.3 FM, powered by ESPN Radio. Just want to say thank you for making 2025 our best year ever for listenership on all our Virginia Talk Radio Network platforms.
Plenty of large insurance companies know something. If you're injured in an auto accident, it can feel overwhelming. They've defended themselves in thousands of personal injury cases while you've never been there. Thankfully, I have. Hi, I'm Dustin Rosser with Trost Law. I began my legal career defending insurance companies before joining Trost Law. I know how insurance companies think and how to navigate the complex legal system. So if you're injured and need someone to fight for you, just call me at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
In most things, it's hard to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's easy with your home or business. Call the Concrete Wizard and transform your place into an extraordinary space. If you're tired of looking at unsightly concrete, then bring light to your old surfaces. Call the Concrete Wizard for free design consultations, free estimates, and fast professional concrete resurfacing. And visit theconcretewizard.com for ideas from other before and after photos. All roads lead to the 2025 ACC Football Championship game this Saturday, December 6th at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Virginia takes on Duke with college football playoff implications on the line. It's a primetime showdown to crown the ACC champion. Tickets are on sale now, and a full weekend of activities at Uptown Charlotte features a free concert with Grammy Award-winning artist Rick Ross. Purchase your tickets now at theacc.com. That's theacc.com. The ACC champion will be crowned in Charlotte. Make sure you're there.
This holiday season, take a step back in time to the heart of the 1940s. Join us at Cedar Oaks Farm in Bedford, Virginia for The Christmas List, a World War II era radio play recorded live to benefit the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Experience the story of the Bedford boys and their last Christmas before shipping out to serve their country. A moving night of laughter, love, and the true spirit of Christmas, featuring live music, classic sound effects, and a full cast performing just like the golden days of radio.
Jing-a-ling, 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 the night is made for sweet romancing. Ha, ho, through the snow we go.
Performances are December 12th and 13th at 7 p.m. and December 14th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale now at cedaroaksfarm.com, with proceeds benefiting the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Come share a nostalgic Christmas at Cedar Oaks Farm, where memories, music, and history come alive.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Yes, indeed. Change that we can believe in. You be the decider on that. We report, you decide. I know, I just used two political lines at once here in the Fast Lane. Hopefully that doesn't put me in the bad graces of our next guest, Jon Manson from AseaofRed.com, who is generous enough to give us some of his time today, as he too was at the Liberty Football Complex. He was there the entire way. I was running late and therefore had to wait outside for like 5 minutes before I was finally mercifully let in from the cold, chilly weather. Jon, first of all, congratulations on actually being warm today. Second of all, your impressions from how Jamie Chadwell has spoken with the media the last couple of times, the change. Are you seeing this the same way that many Flames fans are in terms of not seeing enough, or are you in the camp where at least we're seeing something and it's something that had to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just got to, kind of be patient with the process. I know, saying patience and using that in the same sentence with fans is not something that most fans like to hear. But you just got to be patient with the process and see how things play out. I mean, it's a long off season. There's a lot that needs to happen as far as the Flames go, and I think this week was, as Coach Chadwell's kind of talked about, it's focusing on your current team. He's been going through meetings with his current players and trying to retain as many of those players as possible. And then also on signing day, right? Today's signing day. So focusing on keeping those players and getting as many of them to go ahead and get across the finish line as possible. And then I think you'll see more and more changes kind of unfold. I mean, we've already seen, offensive coordinator Willie Korn, who's been on staff with Coach Chadwell and played for Coach Chadwell going back to, I believe it was 2010. So the better part of, almost 2 decades, they've been, next to each other, alongside each other. So it'll be a big change. That is to start with. And then Coach Chadwell mentioned probably additional, staffing changes as well once you get into next week. And he has some of those meetings with his staff and does some, development and job performance reviews and things like that. So It's probably not going as quickly as most would like, but I think you just got to be patient with the process and see what changes are made. And Coach Travel says, he has to get this corrected, and that's his goal. So we'll just have to see what those changes are going to be.
When you look at Jamie Chadwell, everything I've gathered indicates if you put him in the fight or flight camp, he's in the fight camp, not literally speaking, but fight through this adversity. Should that be music to the ears of Liberty Flames fans that even if they don't want Jamie Chadwell, they seem to have a coach who's committed to fighting this thing out rather than flying away at the first sign of adversity?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's the type. It looks like that he's gonna stick through and try to see this thing to the end and get it righted. I mean, we've talked about it before, but he's had success everywhere he's been and a lot of it. So he hasn't had many losing seasons, and anytime he's had a losing season, he's bounced back and most time in a big way, including what he did at Coastal Carolina. Last time he had a losing season, went 5-7, and then proceeded to win double-digit games each of the next, 3 years, including his first year at Liberty when he went 13-1. So he's not used to losing, and I'm sure it leaves a dirty taste in his mouth, and something he and the staff and the players that are bought in will be, bandied together to try to get this righted. Now, just because you have that mindset and that's what you want to do doesn't mean you're automatically going to go ahead and win games. But it certainly seems like he's committed to the process, and it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. It's definitely going to be an interesting season, and he obviously, you wouldn't have said this, even 6 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, but he's definitely going to be entering the 2026 season with a lot of pressure on him, and I guess you could say the proverbial hot seat as well.
Jon Manson, ASeaofRed.com, the A Sea of Red podcast. They have football. They also have basketball and, of course, great articles at ASeaofRed.com as John is with us here. We're at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts, plus Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. John, changes for Liberty. We'll start on the coaching staff, the offensive one. First of all, how surprised were you at just how emotional Jamie Chadwell got when speaking on the departure of friend of his, and as well now former quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator Willie Korn?
Yeah, I can't say I was too shocked by it. I hadn't really thought about it, but I mean, like I said a minute ago, is Coach Chadwell and Coach Willie Korn have been in lockstep for the past 15, 16 years, and he's been a big part of Chadwell's success. And it's been all about that spread, triple option offense that they've had. And first it was, Korn, who was a highly rated recruit out of high school, played at Clemson, came out of Burns High School in South Carolina, and then transferred to North Greenville, where Coach Chadwell was the head coach. And he kind of turned into being a really successful quarterback at that level. And then, followed him up the coaching ranks, from Charleston Southern to Coastal and now to Liberty. And had a lot of success, but I don't think I've ever been in a press conference. In fact, I can tell you I haven't been in a press conference with a head coach that's gotten that emotional, where you could visibly see tears rolling down his face and talking about how that guy's like a brother to him and a friend and someone he loves. So I wasn't necessarily surprised that he got that emotional. It's just kind of take a step back, because you don't typically see that side of head coaches, and it kind of gives you a fresh perspective that these guys really are, they're humans, and they have real emotions and real feelings and things like that. So I think it's good to see, and something that any Liberty fan listening should definitely go back and watch the press conference just to hear from Coach Chadwell a little bit of a different side of him, and you don't always get to see the true side, the true human side of these coaches, and where they display their emotions and wear them on their sleeves. And you don't always see that from them all the time, and especially not someone who's maybe getting a little bit of heat on his seat. It would be more from someone like a Richie McKay, you think of, who's been at Liberty for a long time, and he's I guess comfortable is the right word to use, as far as he's going to be who he is. And sometimes these head coaches can be a little bit more guarded and not letting that side of them show. And we haven't seen that from Chadwell before. So not going to say I was surprised, but it's something unusual you don't always see.
John, what kind of trickle-down effect is there for the Liberty Flames in terms of offensive coaching staff changes and, as Jamie Chowell alluded to, changes in how they'll be recruiting the portal, not to mention the injuries to Ethan Vasco, the surgery that was announced a couple days ago. He'll be out 6 months. And on top of that, the retirement of Ryan Berger before the start of the season. How much does all of this change the way the Liberty Flames coaching staff and Liberty Flames offensive personnel will look next year?
I mean, it's going to be, we really don't know. I mean, it's going to be an entirely new look team, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but across the board. I mean, the defense loses a ton of playmakers and guys that have, kind of carried the water on that side of the ball. And I'm sure there'll be coaching changes on staff changes on that side of the ball as well, too. But, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, you heard Coach Chadwell talk a lot today about, he's strongly considering the idea of becoming the play caller, and so that'll be interesting to see if that does if that is his route that he'll go with. And that's something he's done before. He did it back. He was talking today about how he did it in 2022, his last season at Coastal Carolina, and you kind of heard him talk about it a little bit during the season about potentially taking that over from Coach Korn. And so that'll certainly be a change there. And, what will that mean for this Liberty offense? Be the first time in, now going on the fourth season that someone other than Coach Korn has been calling the plays. And obviously, the quarterback play was not good enough. Vasco's out for 6 months with that injury, but Coach Chadwell was talking today about bringing in at least one, if not two quarterbacks and through the portal. And he told each of the quarterbacks this week that he's bringing in someone to compete for and hopefully win the job. And so they're going to have to step up their game. So then he also, I was listening to your show earlier and talking about how Coach Chadwell basically mentioned every single position on the team of what he's looking for. And, you're always curious, like, what positions are you going to target? But, just sounds like every position just needs an upgrade, total do-over, total reset. And you've seen other teams, even in the Conference USA, have success doing that. I mean, look no further than, Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State are going to play for the Conference USA Championship Friday night, and first-year head coaches. And both of those teams were kind of remade through the transfer portal last year. And that's something Coach Chadwell is going to try to do, as he goes into his fourth year at Liberty.
Jon Manson, JC Manson, a Sea of Red.com or a Sea of Red on Twitter. The ways to keep up with John and his crew at a Sea of Red.com as he's with us here in the fast lane. Jamie Chadwell all but mentioned that the changes will not be limited to the offensive staff as well. Defensive staff, I'd imagine personnel structure, you're going to see some changes to that also. Is this posturing for Jamie Chadwell, or do you genuinely believe that he's aware that there's got to be a lot of changes, not just in player personnel, as you mentioned a moment ago, but in coaching staff and player personnel and meshing them together?
Yeah, I mean, you've heard him talk about how, he's got to take a step back and look at the entire program, how everything's being run, not just from staffing to personnel to evaluation to, spring practice. You heard him talk about that today. They're pushing that back a month, and just everything has to be reevaluated. So I think we'll see that. I think, the defensive staff, we'll probably learn of some changes of that, here in the next few days or weeks. And, I'm really curious to see how he fills these vacated spots, because Coach Chadwell is someone that's typically always, had guys that has played for him or coached for him previously. Doesn't always go outside of his circle. So it'll be interesting if he promotes from within for whichever spots and however many spots come open. Obviously one so far right now. But I'm really curious to see, if he brings any outside voices to just give some fresh perspective, a fresh look, a fresh, ideas and things like that. Because we have not had any coaching staff changes for the on-field coaches for Liberty in the first 3 years Coach Chadwell has been here. So I think you definitely need some, shake some things up and get some fresh voices in there. Just just for some new ideas. Sometimes that can always be helped. You can get stale and need some other opinions and options and things like that. So I think that'll be a good thing for Liberty in the long haul. And ultimately, it all comes down to Coach Chadwell. It rests on him and his shoulders, and he said that as much. And he's got to push the right buttons and pull the right levers to get this thing righted, or he may be looking for a job next year this time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of aware this is hotter seat than it's ever been for Jamie Chadwell, and he knows there's got to be changes. We've mentioned it: personnel, offensive staff, coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, players. Everything's on the table for Liberty Flames football, and a lot of it, as you mentioned a moment ago, John, is to be determined how the next few weeks shake out. And I'd imagine we won't get another availability till maybe probably late January, once the transfer portal window is wrapped up and things are a little more concrete for Liberty football. Feel free to disagree. If not, we'll pivot over to basketball. When we spoke last week, they came off a loss to Towson by 3, and Coach Richie McKay mentioned he wanted to go more into his bench, and then they played Bradley, and they really didn't seemingly go more into their bench. Are you starting to sense concerns for the Flames, or is this more early season in particular, watching out for guys like Isaiah Enan and Josh Smith and how to ramp them up without them getting injured?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember how much we went into it last week, but I mean, with those 2 losses now, I mean, it kind of changes the rest of the non-conference schedule for Liberty as far as, how you approach those, at least in my mind. And I'm not sure if Coach McKay necessarily feels the same way. We'll find out here soon. But, I mean, no longer is Liberty, fighting for national recognition as far as, being undefeated or staying undefeated or maybe even potentially getting into an at-large type of scenario where if they were to run the table non-conference, you can set yourself up for having that type of resume. But, now you're just trying to figure out, who your team is and where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and how to cover up those weaknesses and amplify your strengths. And, I think you'll look at these last, 3-4 games that they got left in non-conference play as trying to, figure those things out. And as far as, the health, you mentioned Enan, Josh Smith as well, too, as he's, come back the last, 4 or 5 games. And, I think you'll continue to see his workload increase. But same thing with Enan. I mean, Coach McKay and that staff they've been playing the long game with them. And, they want them healthy in March in the conference tournament as opposed to in December. So, I think they'll continue to play that long and slow game. And, you also got to be concerned a little bit about the health of Colin Porter. And you saw him, he missed the game earlier before that trip to Orlando, and then left the game late in the second half against Bradley in the third game down in Orlando. And, he was on the bench, with his left leg wrapped as well too. So we'll have to see how he's doing as well too. But, the big question marks and the big strength, things that we got to figure out for Liberty basketball is, how can Liberty try to get J.J. Harper how to play in the 5? I mean, this is a guy who's, 6'4", 6'5". He's a wing player, and I think he's a great addition to the team, the transfer from West Liberty. But he's been tasked to have to play inside, and teams have been able to take advantage of that. And I don't think that's something he can do for an entire season. So obviously having Josh Smith and hopefully an Isaiah Enan coming back soon to help ease the burden off him and the rest of the team, the rest of the starters, because they played way too many minutes, and that's not something you can sustain for an entire season.
No, it really is not when you're having guys out of position and needing to reshuffle the lineup. We'll see how that unfolds starting this Saturday against Coppin State. John, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane. We're grateful for it, and always glad when we're able to catch up and get the latest scoop on the Liberty Flames, which our listeners can always get at aseaofred.com.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Ed.
Our pleasure. Jon Manson from aseaofred.com here in the Fast Lane. That does it for us today on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGMA Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside. Now on to Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio, already in progress.
Giannis and his potential departure. Hopefully y'all have some positivity. If not, we accept the negativity, and we're here to help you and judge you at 0.